So as Mr. Kim said, I was born in the United States, in New York. My parents, excuse me, I'm getting over a cold still, but my parents were born and raised in Korea, and they went to the United States as university students and met there and raised their family there. And we lived a very ordinary life. We were, as an immigrant Asian American family, we were pursuing the American dream, and we were fortunate. You know, my family life was relatively happy, and things worked out, and we moved into the suburbs, and eventually I was able to go to, as you heard, I suppose, to a name brand college, and everything was working. And I was a very ordinary person. I had friends, I dated, I studied, I went to parties. Everything was normal. But from a very young age, I was troubled by questions about life. And as far back as I can remember, I had these questions. What is the meaning of life? Why was I born? Why are people born? What are we here to do? What happens to us after we die? Are we really just flesh and blood? Or is there, for lack of a better word, a soul or a spirit or a consciousness that survives beyond the confines of this body? Or is there nothing? Are we simply just complex biochemical factories? Is our behavior really just dictated by genes and environment? And is the universe completely devoid of meaning? And when we die, does the light just go out and we're gone? So these doubts and questions really bothered me. And they bothered me enough that when I went into college, I began studying religion to try to find answers, to see what the great sages and saints of the various religious traditions had to say on these issues. And in the course of that, I did enjoy my studies, but the questions remained. And they were messing things up for me, actually. I couldn't enjoy what I had gained and the future that was available to me. So in my junior year, I decided, well, you know, I better go and try and find one of these guys. So I actually was born, as I said, I was born and raised in the U.S. I was culturally American. I didn't speak a word of Korean at the time. So I thought I should go to Korea, since it's my ancestral homeland, and try to find a real Zen master. And I asked around in the local Korean American Buddhist community if I went to Korea, who should I go to? And from independent sources, people began saying to me, well, if you really want to meet an enlightened master, we're having tech problems. If you really want to meet an enlightened master, you have to go to Songdang-sini. So I was, 21 years old. So I thought, well, you know, what's so great about Songdang-sini? And the answer I was told was, in order to reach enlightenment, he undertook a 10-year vow of silence. And he is now a living bodhisattva. And that really intrigued me. I thought, you know, what could possibly be worth not talking for 10 years? And if you've gone through the trouble of learning how to live without talking, what could possibly have made him want to open his mouth again? So Songdang-sini remained in my head. I never met him for the rest of my college years. And you know, as soon as I graduated, I took an odd job and made the money and bought a plane ticket. And by the winter of my graduation year, I was in Yonghwa-sa. And and I didn't speak a word of Korean. I was very, very unfamiliar with Korean culture at the time. And as it turned out, he doesn't live there. He only comes out there to give his speeches. So I waited for about 2 weeks. And finally, when gave formal greeting to him, which consists of a half bow and then a full prostration, then another half bow, and then I kneel in front of him. So I was there kneeling, and no words had been said, and I looked up at his face, and I thought, oh my God, this guy is enlightened. Enlightenment really exists. I don't know why I had that reaction. I mean, I know, but I can't convey it to you. But looking back on it, it seems odd to me too that at such a young age, at first greeting, I looked at his face and there it was. And I want to, instead of talking about the details of his personality, where he's from, what he did, that kind of thing, I'm trying now today to give, to the best of my ability, my first impression of him. So what is it about him that would have made me think, knowing nothing about Buddhism, knowing nothing about Kriya, that he was so enlightened? And the trust and respect was instant, by the way. And what I remember clearly, the first thing was his gaze. It wasn't like bright headlight, penetrating. What struck me was at the time, I remember thinking that normally when you meet someone and you talk to them, you look into their eyes, they don't really have their full attention on you. You see that their gaze is also going in another direction. They're also thinking about things. And when they look at you, they're not fully looking at you, they're looking at their conception of you. So if you have a bad relationship with them, they may be looking at you with thinly concealed hostility. Or if they find you, nice, then they'll be looking at you with affection. But one way or the other, I don't know if we ever really see one another, or for that matter, even ourselves. But with him, I didn't really get that. I had the sense that he was fully awake, that he was undistracted, that he was just looking at me. And normally, you would think that would be invasive, but it actually wasn't, because it was not aggressive. He wasn't sizing me up. He was just very present, fully present. And so there was a kind of lucidity, a brightness about him that I could really never put my finger on. And then going one step further, I had this, when you meet someone, you get the sense of a personality contained within a body. And we ourselves, I believe, most of us experience life that way. As if I'm on the inside, looking out through the windows of my eyes and my other senses. But with him, it almost seemed like it still seems that way, that it seemed to me that his physical form was almost a kind of like finger puppet. That it was just a very small part of a larger totality. And his presence, or his awareness, seemed to fill the entire space, in that case the room. And to this day I still feel that way with him, so that, because I've been his attendant now for almost 10 years. And even when he's got his back to me, I always feel somehow that he's watching me. And so this has not vanished in over 20 years. And so over time, now my first visit to the monastery was just temporary. I was there to just meet him, and I had no future plans. And over time, as I picked up some language skills, he said to me, he said, you could, given your background, given the secular blessings that you've been given in this life, you could graduate and get a nice job and make a lot of money and meet a nice woman and get married, have children, and do all the things that people want to do and people think are good. But he said, you will always be troubled by these questions. And because of these questions, you'll always feel alienated and alone. And life will always seem a little bit empty. And you'll always be trying to fill that emptiness. He said, on the other hand, you could become a Buddhist monk, learn this practice, and answer those questions for yourself. You have to bear in mind I was 22, and I was a very typical college graduate, so, I had to think about that. I was like, God, he wants me to shave my head, he wants me to had seen a person who had, as far as I could see, truly lived up to his beliefs. So that integrity was very impressive to me. And from then on, I had to ask myself, well, am I anywhere close to that level of integrity? And then, of course, I just could never forget that presence and that feeling that he knew, that he had seen the answers to the questions that I had always carried with me. So, after much agonized and calculated self-questioning, I made the leap and I became a Snim. And I've been living as one since. And I want to now discuss, it's all well and great that he's enlightened, but the purpose of his teaching, the purpose of Zen meditation is to gain enlightenment for ourselves. And now, as I said before, I'm not enlightened, so I'll give you the best answer that I know, gleaned from his talks, what enlightenment is. And from what I'm told, what it means is that you directly perceive and experience what you are at the most fundamental level. And what you find in enlightenment, that what you really are, beyond the veil of appearances, what you really are is in fact also the greatest truth and source of all things, of the entire universe. So that's the pitch for enlightenment. But now when I look at you, I remember myself sitting there and hearing these things for the first time. And I think it might be better to briefly discuss, well, still, I mean, that's pretty abstract. And I'm not doing so bad right now. So, do I need to know, these cosmic secrets? I'm not that unhappy. So, why should I devote so much time and effort to enlightenment? What can enlightenment do for me? And so why is the question of enlightenment urgent? Whether we live in a way that we've become so accustomed to that we don't realize how desperate and blind it is. We're just used to it. If you don't know what you really are, and where you really are, and what you're really supposed to do, your entire life, from the very trivial and minute to the grand decisions, what school should I go to, what job should I take, who should I marry, all these are sheer guesswork. You don't know. You think. You believe. You work at an argument for yourself. But it's not the same thing as knowing what I am and doing what I was born to do. So we lack certainty in our lives. And everything is a guess. What should I have for breakfast? What should I say to this person? What should I do with my life? So we live in darkness. And actually, Songdang-Sinim's teacher put it in a very stark. His teacher's name, by the way, was Songdang-Sinim. And Songdang-Sinim says, the life of an unenlightened person is like a traveler deep in the mountains who has lost his way and the sun is setting. So, total darkness, total disorientation. So that's number one. We make a big show of appearing certain. How are you? I'm doing great, I know what I'm doing. I'm supposed to do this. But inside, if we didn't feel this certainty, we wouldn't be drawn to places like this, to gatherings like this, and to talks like this. So, this certainty, this uncertainty, and the anxiety that follows with it, there's a possibility of curing it maybe, which we may never have taken seriously. The second thing, the second difficulty that we live with is we live in the midst of universal impermanence. And all things, they come into existence, they abide, they slowly disintegrate, and then they're gone. Now we know this, but it's not an easy thing to accept. And I think most of us turn a blind eye to it on a day-to-day level. But what's the problem for me personally when I'm living in impermanence? The problem for me is this: if I don't know really what I am, then I believe that I'm this body. So if someone pushes me, I say, what are you doing to me? We may think in our minds, I have this personality, I'm Korean, I'm American, I'm a man, I'm a woman, I'm a Buddhist, I'm a Christian, I believe in justice, whatever. But instinctively, the place that we live in is in our body. And if you think that you're your body, if this is what you feel in your day-to-day life as your central reality, this is what's real, what's physical, me, my sweat and tears, my beating heart, my hungry stomach, then you're living in a state of dread. Because we all know this body is not designed to last forever. It's going to get old, and something's going to happen to it. We know this. Either I'll get sick, or there'll be some kind of terrible accident. Even worse, I don't know when that's going to happen. I only know that it's going to happen. So, and the older I get, no matter how smart I am, how accomplished I am, how clever I am, it's always there in the back of my head, and it's growing larger. The older that I get. It's something is coming for me. And I don't know what's going to happen after that. But as far as I can tell, all that I know will die. And again, enlightenment offers the hope that we can rid ourselves of this dread and be free of it, because we are born with it and we live within it all our lives. And that's why people like the Buddha made such an argument against the unenlightened state and urged us so strongly and so urgently to pursue enlightenment that we can free ourselves of this suffering. And that is how the Buddha originally described the path of meditation and self-cultivation as a way to bring an end to inner suffering. So enlightenment, if nothing else, is good because it removes a very negative element in our lives. But we can take a step beyond that. It's not just useful because it gets rid of something that's bad. In the course of practice, and even with someone like me who's not a master, without even becoming enlightened, you begin to realize that you're much more than you ever thought you were. That what you think you are, how you define yourself and how you present yourself to the world, actually is a terrible limitation. That we're more than these physical bodies, and we have vast resources and hidden talents and faculties that we know nothing about. That this meditation activates this and brings them to the surface. A fully enlightened person is not someone who simply knows what things are. They've actualized full human potential. Things that we literally right now can't even dream of. And it's hard to think that I could be so much more than what I've known myself to be. I know, how smart I am, how attractive I am, how accomplished I am, how much I can do. I think I know these things. And the Buddha challenges us. The Buddhist teachings challenge us to say that we are actually, all evidence to the contrary, we are actually not finite. We are not limited. That we are somehow on some level unlimited in our wisdom, in our compassion, in our power to influence the world, in our ability to grow. And this is a hard thing for us to hear. For one thing, it's just so incredible. And it's hard to leave behind. It feels safer to just stay within our confines. And think, well, because the risk here is disappointment. You give it your best shot, you pursue this unknowable thing, please stretch out your legs. Everybody just, I have an occupational disease of talking too much, so stretch out your legs and stay comfortable. I don't want this to be an exercise of, you're in pain. So, but that is the challenge and the invitation that the Buddha and all of his spiritual descendants, including my teacher, make and give to us. And this was what was given to me and what I would like to now offer to you. Now what I would like to do is spend the rest of this time briefly introducing you to the method of Zen meditation. stretch out your legs, because you all look very uncomfortable. Almost as uncomfortable as myself every morning. Alright. Now, before going into the mechanics of it, the original practitioners of ancient India and ancient China made certain assumptions about ourselves, about human beings. I'm not sure that we hold these same assumptions in this modern age. So I'm just going to briefly go through them. There are very few. The first is that the mind and the mind-body complex is a small universe unto itself. It is a reflection of the larger, greater universe that surrounds us. And it is full, like the universe that we see in the sky, it is full of hidden properties, qualities, functions, capabilities. The second thing they assumed was that we have vast reservoirs of energy that we're not using, and that we can tap into these things. And the third assumption is that we can tap into those hidden potentials and heighten our conscious awareness, magnify it, so that we can see, finally, the real face of reality in our own true form. The radical claim is that we don't need microscopes or telescopes or DNA testing or cars. That with the body and brains that we have right now, we are born with everything that we need, and we can do it with just a little bit of training. So this is the first thing I think that we have to adjust, is our conception of ourselves. We have to enlarge it and think, have I really fulfilled all of my potential? Do I really know what I'm capable of? Have I really gone that far? And if I haven't, then we have an opportunity here. Then today is a new birthday. I can start life over again here. I am a new entity to myself. I am a new person. I look in the mirror and I don't know what I'm looking at anymore. I have a new life now. And that is the first thing that we have to do before meditation. This is the thing that will energize us to go through the sometimes difficult process of training ourselves. What, in the language of my teacher, the first thing that you must believe to begin meditation, and the only thing that you must believe to begin meditation, is, I am Buddha. In fact, I am Buddha. That's the first thing, and we have to believe it right now. So I ask you now, in your own hearts, to open yourselves to that possibility. And everything after this is sort of nuts and bolts. So, going into those nuts and bolts, there are three basic components of Zen meditation: posture, breathing, and thought. And today I'll give you a brief explanation. So, first, posture. Why is posture important? The Buddha and all those around him, and these truth speakers, these spiritual practitioners, had a very simple and logical problem that they needed to solve. Like, if I want to train my power of concentration and learn to direct it in one place for long periods of time, well, how am I supposed to arrange my body? Like, should I stand? Should I sit in a chair? Should I lie down? And the seated posture, which you see in the form of the Buddha, was their solution. This is not mystical. The first temptation is, I'll stand, because when I'm stand, I'm very alert. It's what we're used to doing. But the problem with standing for long periods, of course, is that you have a very small base. It's just your feet. And after a very little while, you start to wobble, and your back hurts, and it's not an easy position to maintain for long periods of time. Okay, so it has the advantage of enhancing your mental focus. But the disadvantage is that you have no physical stability, no long-term physical stability. So then the next obvious idea is, well, then why don't I lie down? And now when you lie down, now you've made your entire body, the entire area of your body, your base. So there's no position more stable and comfortable than that. So you can hold that position for quite a while, and I think most of us do for, say, 6 or 7 hours a day. But the problem, of course, is that you're not focused anymore, and it's very easy to fall asleep. So you won physical stability at the expense of mental clarity. So then now we come to the seated position. Now the seated position is the way I'm seated now. And when you have one leg folded on top of the other, or in the full lotus, both legs folded up, what you've done is you've created a relatively broad base. You've created this very large triangular base, sort of like a duck's foot. So in this position, are you rigidly nailed and mobile? No, but you're pretty stable. And what's better, you can, with a little bit of training, you can hold this for quite a long time. So you have the advantage of physical stability, and yet your spine is erect. Now, an erect spine, I'm told by neuroscientists, is what they call the posture of arousal. All primates, when they need to focus, when they're confronted by something that's possibly dangerous, the first thing they do instinctively is straighten their spine. So if you watch these shows like Animal Kingdom, you see the apes doing what they do in the tall grass, and then maybe a leopard comes by and they all just straighten up and start looking around. That's what we do. That's what two-legged creatures do. And what that does is it's like pushing the on switch on a computer. It creates neurological responses and makes us focus. So what we've got now is very good physical stability with a broad base and the enhanced mental concentration of the posture of arousal. So I would like, why don't we try and assume this position? I'm going to put the mic down for a second. Now, can you all hear me? No, excuse myself. All right, here we go. Now, I'm from the United States, and I also lived on chairs, so trust me, when I learned this, it was very painful for me too. But you'd be surprised how fast you pick it up. So you take one foot, you put it under here, tuck it into your crotch, and then you just put one foot up. Now, normally, you can put it in very deep, but for beginners, it's okay to just rest it on top of your ankle like this. Okay? Now, with your right hand, you tuck it against your abdomen, just below your belly button. Then you put your left hand on top. Now, have your palm up facing the ceiling. Your other palm on top, and then you have your thumbs meet each other in a rainbow position. Okay? The tip of your nose should be lying above your belly button. And what you want to do is you want to tuck in your chin slightly so that you are pushing the crown of your head toward the ceiling. It will elongate your spine. So just come in like this. And when you do that, you keep your eyes open as when you're normally awake. And what will happen is your gaze will naturally fall on the area roughly 10 feet in front of you. Now, with your eyes, you do not want to pick a point, a spot, and start, laser beaming it, start staring at it with your sight. It's okay to laugh. And what you want to do is, nowadays, they call it keeping your eyes soft or soft gaze. And what that means is just let the area in front show itself to you without a particular area of focus. Don't let your vision get completely disfocused. Just very relaxed, keep your eyes very relaxed, expressionless, and just let whatever's in front of you show itself to you. You take the tip of your tongue and rest it gently against the roof of your mouth behind your upper teeth. So this basically is the position, and it all has a reason. Now, earlier, just now I gave you a very scientific description of this position. But in tradition, in Asian tradition, this position is actually considered a sacred position that somehow brings something to completion or perfection within us. And it is said that the Buddha continued to assume this position whenever he could, even after his final enlightenment. And in Korean, this position has a title that expresses this, and in Korean is 대안락 진묘문, which means the mysterious entryway into great peace and bliss. This position itself, when properly mastered, brings us into this great peace and bliss. So it's not just a matter of it being a smart thing to do. itself a mystery that only reveals itself through practice. So this is the posture. Okay? Are you all okay? All right, I'm going to go into breathing now. All right, so breathing. So the first thing with breathing is preparation breaths, and we can do this together. So in preparation breathing, you inhale deeply through your nose and fill your chest. And when you're completely full, you exhale and completely empty your lungs out through your mouth. So we can do that. We can do that 3 times, okay? Together. 1, 2, 3. Again. One more time. Great. Now this gives us three benefits. First, it empties out the stale air collected in our lungs. Second, again, it has the effect on our nervous system of hitting like the restart button on a computer. It just kind of, it's like starting up a car. It gets the engine going again. Third, very simply, by focusing briefly on our breathing, whatever we were thinking about, whatever line of thought we were on is interrupted, and we are now back here, back to center, back to where this body is, right here and now. So as simple as it is, those 3 breaths actually accomplish quite a bit, and I would recommend to you that whenever you're upset about something, whenever you're disoriented, first thing you do, straighten your back, posture, do 3 preparation breaths, and this brings you to your best in that moment. Your most balanced, sharp, and clear state of mind. Now we go into belly breathing. And this is a little bit trickier. Now we're going to do all the breathing through our nose. You inhale as you normally do, a normal breath. You don't have to go deeper. And as you inhale, you slightly push out your lower belly, as if there's a balloon in your lower belly that's filling up with that air. It's as if the air is going all the way down. Obviously, it's not really going all the way down, but it will feel that way. So you let it inflate, you breathe in, let it inflate, and when it feels about 80% full, you pause. And after pausing, you exhale through your nose, and as you exhale, you draw in your belly button toward the spine for a little bit longer than you inhale. So the ratio that Zen Master Sungdam usually gives is 3 seconds inhalation, 3 seconds pause, 3 to 4 seconds exhalation. Now that's a 10-second cycle of breathing, and that might be too long for some of you. We all have different breathing rates. So what you want to do is alter it so that it feels comfortable. It should not feel stressful. It should not build tension in your body. So if you want to go 2, 2, 3, 2 seconds inhalation, 2 seconds pause, 3 seconds, that's fine. Whatever works for you. And you'll find if you practice a lot that over time the breath will naturally increase and you go to 10 seconds and you can go beyond 10 seconds. And interestingly, the longer your natural breathing becomes, the clearer your mind becomes, the more acute your observation is. And this is exactly what we want. We want to enhance our power of attention, of awareness. Now the other thing that breathing does for us is there is a very close and intimate relationship between our breathing pattern and our emotional state. So, and this is obvious in our day-to-day life. So if you're very sad, you sigh. If you're angry, your breathing becomes very rough and uneven, much like your mental state in that moment. If you're afraid, your breathing becomes very high and shallow and rapid. And it's so your breathing is a very, very good reflection of your emotional state, and the response is unbelievably quick. But what these ancient practitioners found is that the reverse holds true. That by regulating our breath, we can regulate our emotional state. And so when we're in a state of distress, when we are emotionally out of balance, the tendency for us is to talk to ourselves in our minds, calm down, what should I do? I should do this. Maybe I should do this, and start to try to think it through. But the problem with that, please, The problem with trying to think it through is that you are in the worst possible situation to think clearly. You are overwhelmed by emotion. And emotion is a physical state. And if your physical state is out of whack, it's hard to think straight. So rather than approach your emotion on a mental level, approach it physically. So get your posture first, and then go into breathing. And let your breathing bring you down. Let your thoughts flow. You know, all the hostility or fear or anxiety or sorrow or loneliness or pain. Just let it flow and breathe with it. So once again, seated in our meditation position, and you can do this in a chair too, by the way. As you breathe in, extend your lower belly, pause, and as you exhale, pull in your lower belly. So we can do that together. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Now, people who are doing it for the very first time may experience some discomfort and may feel awkward. That's not a problem. When you feel like your rhythm is off, just go back to normal breathing for a while. You know, let your body settle down and just try it again. Like a tennis swing or a golf swing, it's just a physical procedure that you need to learn. It just takes a little bit of practice. Now, the encouraging thing is this. Fetuses in the mother's womb actually breathe this way. This is our original way of breathing. They're not breathing air yet, but they're in the later months of pregnancy, they begin the breathing motion, and it's belly breathing. And when a baby is newly born, until they get to a certain age, they're actually belly breathing. That's the normal mode of breathing. It's the right mode of breathing for our bodies. So when we're learning belly breathing, we're not learning something new. We're just remembering something that our body forgot a long time ago. So again, this is part of our natural physical legacy, and we can tie into it very easily. So with posture and breathing, we bring ourselves to a point of mental and emotional balance. And it's from this point, it's from this situation that we can most effectively use our minds. So what do we do with our minds? And that's the third component of Zen meditation, thought. Now what my teacher, 환산스님, teaches, and what the Korean Zen tradition teaches is you're going to use this enhanced, cultivated, empowered mental clarity to ask yourself a simple question. And that question is, what is this? Now that question means, that's shorthand for what is this that drags my body around? What am I? Now I use the word I, but what am I attaching that pronoun to? When I feel an emotion, when I feel sadness, what is the thing that's feeling sadness? When I feel anger, what's the thing that's, shooting out anger? When I think of thought, where is that thought coming from? What is the thinker? Now you're going to ask this question, but you're not going to try to answer it. Because the problem is, when you try to answer it, you're just going to come up with a label. It's my soul, my consciousness, the real me, Buddha nature, spirit, awareness, whatever you want to call it. That's putting a name on it and finding a way to describe it is qualitatively different than perceiving it directly for yourself and experiencing it directly for yourself. And as I said earlier, it's only when we see what we truly are, it's only when I've proven to myself through my direct experience that my true life and my true self extends far beyond this body, that's when we begin to become free of suffering. So this experience of enlightenment is the most important thing, is the only thing. And it's the hallmark of Zen Buddhism. That we're not going to concern ourselves so much with theory and learning and custom and culture and ritual. We want the experience. We want to know what we really are. So we're going to ask, what is this? And there's a what is this in rhythm with your breath. So you breathe in, pause, and as you breathe out, what is this? And you draw out with this. Okay? Now, for our Korean members, I encourage you to actually do it in the original Korean because it's much closer to your heart. So in Korean, it's 이, 뭐, 고. The 경상도 dialect for 이것이 무엇이고. Right. So you would be saying 이, 뭐, 고 for our Korean members, and for our English-speaking members, you will be asking yourself, what is this? Now you have to ask this question. It's not a mindless repetition. It's not a repeated prayer or a mantra. It is a real question, the one question in our lives, and we direct it to ourselves with the utmost sincerity and honesty and urgency. And when you do that, you create a state of mind that Korean Buddhists call doubt. In Korean, 의심. But this doubt is not skepticism. It's not like, well, is there really such a thing as enlightenment? Can a person really do that? Should I become Buddhist? It's not that kind of skepticism or that kind of doubting. It is the state of questioning. You're asking a question that fundamentally cannot be answered. And instead of trying to answer it, you're trying to heighten that state of questioning. And emotionally and physically, what it feels like, what Songdam-s님 compares it to is, it's as if you lost your key, your car key. Now you're the one who put it somewhere, but right now, you don't know where it is. So you're like, where did I put the keys? Yeah. Where did I put the damn keys? And you're like, where are the keys? That feeling, you know that you know, but you can't remember. You're stuck. And that's how Korean Buddhists describe it, as being blocked. And instead of trying to resolve this blockage, you're going to try to intensify it. So you ask yourself with each breath, because what will happen is in your mind, you're going to start thinking of other things. Even in the midst of saying, what is this, you may start thinking about what's going on at home, or whatever relationship issues there are, or whatever job issues. That's okay. Stray thoughts, distracting thoughts are not an issue. You just ask, what is the thing that thought that? Right? Now, this seems very simple, and it is very simple, but it's actually very profound. Normally, when we're addressing questions of our psychological and mental health, we're worried about the content of thought, and that's the basis of what I believe is still called psychodynamic therapy. Psychotherapy, the traditional talking cure. You talk about what's on your mind. You talk about what's in your heart. You're not focusing on the actual process of thinking. Now you can take a step back from that and walk away from the concern with content. Negative, positive, neutral. You can drop that, and some meditation traditions instead begin to observe the flow of thought and become familiar with the mechanics of your mental workings. And so you observe thought, you observe emotion, you observe the sensations that you feel in your body, and you begin to see for yourself, things arise, they abide, they start to fall apart, they disappear, only to be replaced by something new. And that's one way of meditating. But what's the interesting thing with the Korean way is you don't even pay attention to that either. You're concerned not with thought, not with emotion, but the thing that's viewing it, the thing that's experiencing it. So in the Korean tradition, they call this 회광반조. And what that is loosely translated, what that means is turn the light around and shine it back. What does that mean? Turn your inner vision around. The light is the light of our attention, the light of our awareness. Redirect your attention back to its own source. So you're trying to see, very literally, your own self. And your inability to do that is causing the block, is causing the ocean, the doubt. Sorry, I'm getting my languages mixed up. But it's causing the doubt, and this is exactly what you want, to keep building up that doubt. And that's what the question, what is this Ryimoko? In Korean it's called a padu. You may know it by its Japanese Buddhist name, koan. In Korean that's kongan. But it's a question. But when you ask this question, you are automatically, by the nature of the question, as long as you're asking that question sincerely, with authenticity, you're automatically trying to direct your attention back to its own source. And then that is the crux of Korean Zen meditation. This is what we want to be doing. But that kind of description is so abstract and so alien for a beginner. So we begin with what is this? And you'll feel for yourself the feeling of doubt, of the great, they call it the great doubt. You'll feel it within yourself, and the term is uichang. You actually feel the doubt as a physical presence within your body, and you begin to realize that you're not just spinning your wheels. So at the moment, you do need faith, and the faith is, as I said, that you are Buddha, and we just need a method to discover that for ourselves. And you just need enough faith to try the practice on your own, in a regular way, and so that you begin to feel the changes yourself. And there are many changes that meditation brings out, and I'll briefly list them. Very obvious health gains. Your blood pressure goes down, your digestion improves, your complexion improves, your sleep gets better. So a lot of people do meditation for that. Taking it another step forward, you begin to activate hidden abilities. And some people get very caught up in that. I don't even want to mention what they are, but the mystical abilities. And some of us believe in that, and some of us don't. But through meditation, you begin to activate. Some people pursue that as the goal of meditation. And you can also experience heightened rapture, heightened ecstasy, heightened moments of lucidity, and all those things. But the hallmark of Korean Zen meditation is you're not asking for a fleeting experience. You're not asking for a special ability, because these are all bound up in the impermanent world. No matter how smart you get, no matter how powerful you get, your body has to obey the laws of nature. It must go. So we want to transcend these things and find the unchanging, the indestructible, the truth at the center of our existence, and the truth that is said to be the source of all living things, of all created things. This is what this practice can do for us. And all of those other things that I mentioned, the health gains, the heightened sense of living, the activation of hidden potential, we gain that as side effects anyway. All those things alone are worth it. But still, it's important from the beginning to make enlightenment, real enlightenment, our one and only true goal. Because if we don't, we risk falling into some kind of delusion that will only bring us back into the cycle of suffering. So, I think I've been talking for a while now, but why don't we try this meditation? So again, posture, and then we go into belly breathing, and then with belly breathing, on the exhale, ask yourself, what is this? What is this that's asking, what is this? What am I? The thing that the I is attached to. The thing that the I designates. What is this? So keep your eyes open as you normally do. Look forward. The tip of your tongue and the roof of your mouth. Just relax. And begin your belly breathing. And on the exhale, ask yourself, what is this? So for today's talk, I'll end it here. I believe that I'm scheduled to give these talks twice a month at this time on the second and fourth Saturday here. So I would like to invite all of you and all of your friends to come out here and learn this practice together. Today we just scratched the surface, and there's a lot more that I would like to convey to you from my teacher, Zen Master Songdam. Zen Master Songdam is the 77th generation of Buddhist teachers from the time of the Buddha. So as he is we call that the Dharma heir. So he, in his time, is responsible for conveying the teachings of the Buddha. And I have followed him for my entire adult life, and I've never found any reason to doubt him. I have to say, coming out here, I really wish I were enlightened, so I could do more than act as an intermediary. But meeting you all, it does inspire me to practice.